And Bob, the immediate pressure will be on Denver quarterback Steve DeBerg. He completed 17 straight to conclude matters against the Rams last week. And if he completes his next pass, he will enter the NFL record books by himself.
Well, are presently tied with Baltimore, then Burt Jones, now with the Los Angeles Rams. That happened back in 1974. Interestingly, Danny Reeves has not told anybody what the first play is. He said to me before the game that pressure enough on the quarterback. He doesn't want the receiver to also have that pressure. So until the coin is tossed and they finally go out there on offense, nobody's going to know what the play is.
And what is going on with the Kansas City quarterback situations? They shuttle between Steve Fuller and Bill Kenny. Today, it will be Bill Kenny.
Well, I think Kenny is the better of the two throwers. And he is from Northern Colorado, played his football right in this area, lives in the Denver area in the offseason, and it might elevate his performance a little bit. But the problem is the Kansas City offensive line can't protect any quarterback. They've allowed 26 sacks since the season resumed. Now, I'll tell you another thing. The Kansas City offense is hurting because Joe Delaney is out. Will not play with a bad knee injury. And last season, in his 1,000-yard rushing season, he alone averaged 75 yards. This year, Kansas City, as a team rushing, is only averaging 95 yards. So...
And there is Coach Marv Levy of the Kansas City Chiefs as we get set for the kickoff. Nick Lowry, in his third year out of Dartmouth, getting set to kick to Gerald Wilhite and Wade Manning. And we are underway in Denver. This is Wilhite. Across the 20 where he is pounded. Dave Klug leading the attack, number 55, leading the attack for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so the Broncos to the offense.
And let's see exactly what that first play is going to be to try to establish a new NFL record. 18 straight completions by Steve DeBerg.
Well, what do you think? Does he go for the almost sure shot? Does he go swing pass? Does he try to cross up the KC Chiefs?
Well, you'll notice that Eric Harris, 44, the cornerback down here, is off of Steve Watson quite a bit. I'd go there.
All right, here it is. And that's the record. Dave Preston on the swing, lost yardage. However, Steve DeBerg in the books. He has set a new National Football League record, 18 consecutive completed passes.
You know, I admire Dan Reeves for this one point, Marv, and that is there are a lot of coaches that I believe would probably discard that record, pay no attention to it whatsoever. But this sets Steve DeBerg apart from any other quarterback in the history of the NFL. The yardage makes no difference. He sacrifices the yardage for the completion. DeBerg has the ball to the sideline. And presently, he holds the NFL record, now separated from Burt Jones. 18 straight.
However, he did lose 4 yards on the play, so a 2nd and 14 back at the 19. The running backs, Gerald Wilhite, number 47, and Rick Parros, number 24. And that is Wilhite behind Parros. Wilhite out across the 20-yard line. Dave Klug on the stop. And let's set the Denver offense. As I mentioned, Wilhite and Parros are the running backs. Rick Upchurch and Steve Watson, the wide receivers. And Jim Wright starting at tight end in place of the injured Riley Odoms, Minor, Vlasic, Brian Studdard, and Lanier on the Denver offensive line. They have a 3rd and 13 at the 20. Well, that is the end of the streak on the incompletion.
That was dropped by Watson, too. That rather surprises me. That was a good pass. There was no reason for him to drop that. He was down on his knees. And 18 straight, but we'll watch Watson. 81. Very sure-handed receiver. He's just between linebacker and corner on the coverage. This one should have been caught. Should have been caught. One note for you. I noticed in the Kansas City starting defense, Gary Spaney was out. Dave Klug was in as a middle linebacker. He's suffering from the flu and had a very eventful night, I understand, here in Denver. So they're going to try to spare him a little bit. He'll play some, but not the whole game.
Here's Luke Prestridge and the rookie Anthony Hancock. Out to midfield and tripped up. Hancock with much running room and with acceleration, tripped up by Nathan Poole. It's a 39-yard punt. Good return by Hancock as we look at Kansas City offensively. At quarterback, Bill Kenny, Billy Jackson, and James Hadnot are the running backs. Jackson moves to halfback, what with Joe Delaney sitting it out. Henry Marshall, Carlos Carson, Al Dixon, and the offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs. First down at the 45-yard line. That's Carson in motion. James Hadnot in his third year out of Texas Tech, getting the starting shot. That is only his 8th carry of the season. Randy Gradishar making the stop on the play,
as he always seems to do for the Denver Broncos. As you look at the front three,
and the linebackers, Jim Ryan, Larry Evans, Randy Gradishar, and Tom Jackson. It is a second down and 5 at the 40. And that's Billy Jackson, big hole on the left side, and picking up the first down. So Jackson in his second year out of Alabama, 7th round draft pick last season, collecting the first down.
If Billy Jackson can have a big day, it'll certainly help the Kansas City Chiefs offense with Delaney out. He is a young man that they have high hopes for, although Jackson has not had much of a chance to run the ball. Now watch Reuben Carter, the noseman, how close he is to that ball. And Rudney and Condon still do a good job on the trap block there to get the ball up through the middle. First down, Kansas City.
First down at the 33. That's Marshall in motion. With a short pickup. Kansas City Chiefs have lost their last 4, losing to the Raiders last week in the final seconds. Jim Plunkett to Calvin Muhammad with 25 seconds left. Of course, the Raiders did it again yesterday to the LA Rams. Denver coach Dan Reeves.
Kansas City has won 3 of the last 4 meetings, I do believe, against Denver. So if there is some psychological edge, it may be to Kansas City, although the last 12 games, Denver has won 9. Smart Levy.
Second and 7 from the 30. Incomplete intended for Carson. Lewis Wright, the left corner, covering on the play. So it sets up a 3rd down and 7 for the Kansas City Chiefs. We're 3.5 minutes in, first quarter.
And this has been a tough spot for the Kansas City Chiefs. When they get in that 3rd down and long yardage situation, teams have been coming with the blitz. And I repeat something we said at the opening of the broadcast, that they have allowed 26 sacks since the season resumed, 31 total on the year. And last year, in 16 games, they only allowed 37. So they've certainly had their problems protecting the quarterback.
Kenny and Fuller combined for 8 sacks, or they were sacked 8 times last week. Diving attempt by Anthony Hancock. So the Denver defensive unit that has had its problems this season, able to hold off the Chiefs in the opening series. And here is Nick Lowry.
Well, this is a very, very quiet Denver crowd here. In years past, you come here and this place is rocking with orange and lots of very boisterous Denver Bronco fans.
Perhaps a record of 2 and 4 contributing possibly. By Lowry. It is good. Nick Lowry from 47 yards away, giving the Kansas City Chiefs a 3-0 lead.
Lowry now 4 of 5 attempts from 40 to 49 yards. And this young man has been just about the sum total of the Kansas City Chiefs scoring. That's his 12th field goal in 16 attempts. And without Nick Lowry, they'd be worse than 1 and 5 if you can possibly be.
Before the strike, Kansas City lost to Buffalo 14-9, then beat San Diego 19-12 with a big defensive performance, holding the Chargers to only 12 points. But since the resumption of football, Kansas City lost to New Orleans, the LA Rams, Pittsburgh, and the Los Angeles Raiders. Nick Lowry getting set to kick off with Wilhite and Manning back. 3-0. The Chiefs on the 47-yard field goal by Lowry. Wade Manning. Across the 20, out to the 22-yard line. Calvin Daniels and Del Thompson combining on the stop.
Marv, I'll make a comment early here. With the Kansas City Chiefs being 1-5, a lot of people wonder if they have the attitude to continue to play in this season. But generally, you can watch a team and their special teams kind of dictate the kind of intensity that the team will have throughout the day. And on 2 kickoffs, Kansas City has looked very, very good, plus the punt return by Carlos Carson. So it does appear that their minds are in the game.
It's a 1st and 10 now for the Broncos at the 21-yard line. Last Sunday, Denver coming from behind, beating the LA Rams 27-24. Nowhere for Rick Barros. And here the crowd getting a little testy at this point. Art Still, number 67, on the tackle.
We'll watch Art Still, number 67, defensive end of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's in there to make the tackle. Interesting thing about Art Still, with the strike and with his injuries and with the resumption of the season, he has practiced a grand total of 2 days in 14 weeks. So if he's a little rusty and doesn't appear to be his former All-Pro self, that's the reason why. When healthy, he is one heck of a defensive end.
And he is without his partner, Mike Bell, on the other side. Bell is out. Dave Lindstrom at right defensive end. This is Carlos again trying to go wide. Short pickup, perhaps a yard. Jerry Blanton, the inside linebacker on the left, making the stop.
Spaney, I notice, is now back in the lineup for the Kansas City Chiefs as we'll look, and it's now official. I do believe we have the right names with the right numbers on the field. Still Kramer and Lindstrom up front, and the linebackers Howard, Blanton, Spaney, and Jackson are correct.
And a look at the secondary. Green, Burris, Barbaro. Eric Harris was a question mark because of a groin injury. He did sit out last week. And Trent Bryant waiting in the wings. They want to see if Harris can do it today. 3rd down, and they say about 10 from the 21. And DeBerg was popped. So Steve DeBerg going incomplete.
Art Still got his arm on Steve DeBerg's arm, and that's dangerous for a quarterback. That's Art Still going against Lanier, the young man out of Florida State that the Denver Broncos have high hopes for. There you see the hand slaps for Art Still. Practicing just 2 days and 14 weeks. I marvel at his ability to even come close to the quarterback, but that is a fact with a hip pointer, and Marv Levy told me that before the game.
So a punting situation. Luke Prestridge averaging 45 yards per punt, 45 and change. That is the best in the AFC. And punting to Anthony Hancock. And a good one. And good coverage. Change of direction move by Hancock and did well to get out near the 40-yard line. Steve Busick in on the tackle. So the Kansas City Chiefs will take over. A 54-yard punt, a beauty by Prestridge. And again, a good return, 14-yard return by Hancock. Kansas City leading at 3-0 on a 47-yard field goal by Nick Lowry.
Kansas City has certainly had great field position these first 2 possessions. The last one, I believe, started at about the 45 or 50, and now they're at the 39-yard line. So great field position for Kansas City.
And they go double tight end with Ed Beckman and Willie Scott. This is Jackson and a penalty marker down. Billy Jackson out to the 42, sets up a 2nd and 7, depending on the penalty.
It looks like offside in Denver. They did jump.
I will get the official call from the referee, Jim Tunney. 4th quarter, Cleveland.
Wow.
Over Pittsburgh, 10-9, and 4 seconds remaining. Now they say final score. That is final. The Browns over the Steelers. And another one-pointer. Washington led by Mark Mosley. 15 and the Giants 14. St. Louis squeaking by Chicago 10-7. And another final, the Eagles over hapless Houston. Minnesota leading Detroit in the 4th quarter. Right here, 3-0. Kansas City in possession. 1st down and 5 off the penalty on Denver. Billy Jackson. Stopped by Barney Davis.
Marv, trap play up the middle. It appeared that Chavis had a predetermined move down inside. There was nothing that any offensive lineman could do about it. And it does appear that Kansas City is going to run and run and run and only throw when it's absolutely necessary. They've had trouble protecting the quarterback, and you're not going to sack the quarterback when you run the ball as much as Kansas City would like to.
Marv Levy upset, particularly last week with right tackle Charlie Getty, who had a tough time. Second down and 3. That's Marshall in motion. Jackson. Short by about 1.5 yards. Larry Evans, Tom Jackson. 2 linebackers combining to make the stop. While we have a moment setting the officials, the referee, as I said, Jim Tunney, the umpire, Pat Hodder, the head linesman, Sid Seaman, the line judge, Boyce Smith, back judge, Pat Knight, side judge, Gil Mace, and the field judge, Johnny Greer. It'll be a 3rd down and 2 at the 48.
Well, I'd say right now is the time to really get on top of Denver. You're 1 and 5. There is no reason to be conservative here. I'd throw it in this situation. First down doesn't mean a thing. They are going to.
Henry Marshall fell down. He says he was tripped up. It is incomplete. Steve Wilson covering on the play.
And that last picture we just showed you, the people in Kansas City are used to seeing the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs on his back. Bill Kinney was. He had to hurry the throw, and because of that, Henry Marshall could not run under it. And you'll see the pressure that Kinney gets. From behind the defense, he has very little time. Jackson 57 on the blitz, 50 Evans on the blitz. At 72, Latimer with his hands in Kinney's face, and it's just as good as a sack. The pressure.
On the first NFL punt by Case DeBron, shanks it off the side of his foot, not the way you like to break in. He is a rookie out of Idaho State. Making his debut, he was cut late in preseason after Kansas City ran a 6-man punt off, won by Jeff Gossett. Gossett was dropped, and DeBron making his debut.
That's tough. Out of Idaho State, as you said, Marv. 16 yards on the punt. Denver will take over at their own 36-yard line, and things can get nothing but better for that young man. Interesting, too, that as a player, when a punter or a place kicker does a bad job, nobody talks to him.
Yeah.
They leave him alone. He's like the plague. You don't dare talk to him. Oh, there's Ed Beckman. Congratulations, Ed. Said hello to him.
So Denver taking over at the 36-yard line. First down and 10. Steve Watson right near the first down marker. Gary Green, the left cornerback, making the stop.
Good shot by DeBerg. Has a good strong arm. He waits, kind of telegraphs his pass, and Green has the ability to get in there and almost getting away, but a good catch by Watson. And if he'd have made that catch on the second pass thrown by DeBerg, I think the streak would have still been alive. You'll see him go down on this ball to catch it. And this young man has been a complete surprise for the Denver Broncos. An absolute, total surprise. He has done very well.
Coming off a 10-reception day last week, it's 2nd and less than 1. Let's see how they rule it.
It's a catch.
It is a catch by Rick Upchurch. He had it. And then, as the pop was made, he dropped the ball. Free safety Gary Barbaro covering on the play, but it is ruled a completed pass and a Denver first down.
Interesting choice of plays. I believe what Denver is trying to do is get outside the pass rush of Art Still.
And we'd like to welcome those viewers who have been watching the Pittsburgh-Cleveland game. Marv Albert with Bob Trumpy from Mile High Stadium in Denver. Kansas City in front of Denver 3-0 on an early field goal in this first quarter. A 47-yard field goal by Nick Lowry. It'll be a 1st and 10 from the 48-yard line. Steve DeBerg. You saw much motion, and they will... It's whistle dead. Jim Wright, number 87, the tight end, starting in place of the injured Riley Odoms, appeared to move. It is a procedure call against Denver.
It doesn't appear that Denver's mind is really in this game yet. Going to have to do something to shake him up. Dan Reeves is on the sideline. Very, very quiet.
False start, 5 yards, right tackle, right end.
So the false start on number 87, Jim Wright. It'll be a 1st and 15 from the 47. Right at the start, opening series, first pass, Steve DeBerg set the record, completing his 18th in a row as he hit Dave Preston on a safe swing pass that lost 4 yards on the play. But DeBerg off the 17 straight last week, now in the record books. Again, the penalty marker down. Nice catch.
Excuse me, I think that's an illegal formation by the Denver Broncos. I think they only had 6 men on the line of scrimmage. Illegal procedure? I believe that's what it is. They had the 2 wide receivers over here. Both were off the line of scrimmage, and so was the tight end. So somebody had to be on the line of scrimmage.
And it was the tight end, Jim Wright, who made the reception. But they will call it back. And let's see what Jim Tenney has to say.
Illegal formation, no end on the line of scrimmage.
Right.
5 yards, still first down.
That's one of the problems with this offense. Dallas sometimes has the problem too. And they do a lot of moving around, but you've got to have those 7 guys on the line of scrimmage. This is an excellent pass and catch by Wright. In traffic, you see, it's almost intercepted. Pass Blanton's head, but a good catch by Wright.
It is now 1st down and 20 back at the 42-yard line. Just under 6 remaining first quarter. The safe route for Rick Barros. And off the spin gets to the 46-yard line. A short advance. Charles Jackson, linebacker on the right. Darren Cherry combined to make the stop. It'll be a 2nd down and 18 at the 44. Denver coming in at 2-4. Beat the Rams last week in that come-from-behind effort. Coming back from a 17-0 deficit, as DeBerg was 23 for 31, 307 yards. There are the stats last week for Steve DeBerg, including the 17 straight. And DeBerg is sacked. It is Art Still, the 5-year man out of Kentucky, coming up with his 3rd sack of the season.
You'll watch the pressure, 4-man front by the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is Art. He gets pressure from the outside, but Art Still once again on Lanier, the young man out of Florida State, and he gets to the inside of Lanier, which is just unforgivable on an offensive tackle's part. You can see the game Still is on the ground, too, and Still gets to the quarterback. Great play, great effort by Art Still.
And it sets the Broncos back to a 3rd and 24, back at the 38. Double reverse, Watson looking to run it out of trouble, and a penalty marker is down. A combination of Sammy Winder and Steve Watson, and it did not work. Still and Kramer combined on the stop.
That was a double reverse. I'm not sure I've ever seen that. Marv Levy, I believe it's going to be a clip.
Holding. Number 24, Denver decline.
All right, Rick Parros, number 24, called for the hold.
We'll watch those defensive linemen again. Still and Kramer coming in. You see the misdirection just about everywhere, but the penetration by the defensive lineman really messes up the play. Watson still makes a pretty good go of it, but Still and Kramer on the tackle. 4th down and a lot. Prestridge to punt.
That's Anthony Hancock awaiting the punt from Luke Prestridge. Another terrific punt by Prestridge. Hancock looking to pick his way. And Jim Wright gets to him at the 25-yard line. So a 55-yard punt by Prestridge, who is moving that 4:16 left in this first quarter, and that's for Kansas City. Back at the 26-yard line. And this is Billy Jackson. Short pickup for Jackson. Joe Delaney sitting it out with a bruised knee, so Jackson moving to halfback, and James Hadnot in at fullback.
Marv, I realize that the Denver fans here have had very little to cheer about in this first quarter, but I can't remember ever being in Mile High Stadium when it's been more quiet.
They have been intimidated by your presence.
Then again, maybe not. They are very, very quiet for whatever reason.
2nd down and 8 at the 28-yard line. 3.5 left in this first quarter. Kansas City up 3-0. And Kenny to throw. Oh, beautiful reception. Carlos Carson in Denver territory, down to the 45-yard line. Steve Wilson, the right quarterback, making the stop.
27 yards on the reception, and once again there was pressure in the face of Bill Kinney. He did a great job to get the ball off. This time it was 56, Larry Evans. You see the pressure, 72-56, but that's thrown on a line. That is what you call a shot. Great catch and a great throw. And once again, Kansas City back in Denver territory.
Carlos Carson making it back after the broken leg injury. 7-11 games last season. That's Jackson accelerating to the 40-yard line. It'll be a 2nd down and 5 for the Kansas City Chiefs. Radishar and Kyle making the stop. Aaron Kyle starting at free safety today. The first time that he has played free safety, at least to our knowledge, in the pros. He did play it in college at Wyoming.
Marv, I must mention that the Denver defense has really had its problems this year, but it's been primarily against the pass. They are only allowing 107 yards per game for this season, and today they're having trouble stopping the run of Kansas City.
2nd down and 5. Greg Boyd, number 77, the defensive left end. It's Boyd, Latimer, and Manor up front now for the Broncos, so a loss on the play. There's Boyd out of San Diego State. Signed as a free agent back in 1980 after 3 years with New England. And there's Nick Lowry, who hit from 47 yards out earlier this first quarter. Extra defensive back in the Denver lineup with J.T. Thomas.
Look at this formation.
Kenny being smothered. And let's see what they call this. Nope, it'll be a sack. The play was blown dead. And for the first time, we get a rise out of the crowd looking for the fumble and the Denver recovery. But the official called it a sack.
I think it was a good call, too, because he got out of one sack, got the ball back up like he was going to throw it again. Dan Reeves obviously not very happy with the call, but he was pressured from the outset. 72, Don Latimer, once again in his face, along with 77, Greg Boyd. And nobody, you can't blame the quarterback for this situation. Kansas City is just not able to protect the quarterback well enough to have time to throw the ball. Watch it. He sets up right there. There are already offensive and defensive linemen in his face. Nobody can throw in that situation. You're going to see the ball pop loose, and I think it was a good call.
And a punting situation. And here is the rookie from Idaho State making his NFL debut earlier this quarter with a 16-yarder, Case DeBruin. This time angling. And it went out of bounds. Inside the 20-yard line. They're spotting it at the 19. So DeBruin faring a bit better in his second effort. There's Craig Morton and son Michael. Craig will be honored at halftime as Craig announced his retirement. 18 years in the National Football League.
Only 2 quarterbacks have played longer. George Blanda, 26 years, and I believe Earl Morrall at 21. He played 18.
Case DeBruin, in terms of field position, faring better than he did with his first punt that went 16 yards. This last one measured at 17 yards. Denver first down at the 19-yard line. Now this is Sammy Winder. Hits his way to the 25-yard line. The rookie out of Mississippi, a 5th-round draft pick, stopped by Jerry Blanton and Eric Harris.
We also saw Art Still on the tackle from the other side of the defense mark. Obviously feeling pretty good. He's suffering from a hip pointer somewhat. Claudie Minor comes off limping. Offensive tackle.
He's had a rough time recently, a sore knee, bad ankle. Claudie Minor talking about retirement. Now replaced by Keith Bucher. Played most of the way last week. Will Height in, replacing Winder, 2nd down and 4. And that's Paris. Not able to get anywhere. Art Still, who has been enormous in this first quarter, making the stop. And we have 25 seconds remaining in the quarter. Kansas City in front, 3-0 on a 47-yard field goal early in the quarter by Nick Lowry.
Art Still, number 67, the cornerstone of that Kansas City defense, as you watch DeBerg come to the sideline to talk to his coach, Dan Reeves, who calls all the plays.
Denver Broncos must win their last 3 to make the playoffs. One loss and they are eliminated. They cannot win on a tiebreaker. Time is running down now, and they just let it wind down. That's the end of the first quarter here at Mile High Stadium in Denver, Colorado, with the score: the Kansas City Chiefs 3, the Denver Broncos nothing. 75,103, 93rd straight regular season sellout here in Denver as we check out the scoreboard. Detroit with a rally late but fell short. Minnesota over the Lions 34-31. Danielson throwing 2 late touchdown passes in the final minute. Minnesota able to hang on right here. 3rd down and 2 at the 27. That's Watson in motion. Watson on the reception out of the 29, a pickup of only 2. Gary Spaney making the stop.
Boy, that took a long time to develop. Watson went in motion one way, went in motion the other way, then went out on a delay, then delayed back in. As you look at the first quarter stats,
not much doing there.
Nope. 23 yards total for the Broncos, 54 for the Chiefs. Nothing to scream about on either side. So far, the star of the first quarter has been Art Still of Kansas City. He's been everywhere.
They are measuring. It is, well, they picked up the first down. From our angle, did not appear to be so, but it is a first down for the Denver Broncos at the 29-yard line.
Marv Levy, he's got to be concerned about his offense. They're averaging just 15 points a game through this season. That's not enough to win in the NFL.
Now Wilhite and Paros are the running backs again. Watson in motion. Here's Wilhite on the sweep. Out to the 33-yard line. Blanton and Jackson making the stop. Well, it's fast becoming a New Year's tradition on NBC Sports, a lineup of college football that'll bowl you over starting at 1:30 Eastern Time with the Fiesta Bowl matching Oklahoma and a sensational freshman by the name of Marcus Dupree going up against the #1 ranked defense of Arizona State. Then the Rose Bowl with Michigan led by the speedster Anthony Carter taking on the Bruins of UCLA, followed by the Orange Bowl with Big 8 power Nebraska against the Tigers of LSU. That'll be New Year's Day right here on NBC Sports. Gerald Wilhite trying the middle for short yardage.
Tight end trap. Paul Egloff came in motion and tried to trap Art Still. Art Still stood him straight up. I mean, this is a very, very conservative approach by the Denver Broncos offensively, with all the motion in and out, and of course with Dan Reeves' heritage out of the Dallas Cowboys organization. Excuse me, Ron Egloff, I apologize. You would expect a little more action down the field than we've seen here from Denver.
Denver now 3rd down and 4 at the 35-yard line. Just 2 minutes gone by in the second quarter, and Kansas City leading it 3-0. Berg's pass deflected. Incidentally, on the subject of deflected passes, Dave Lindstrom appeared to get a piece of that. You recall the alleged sack earlier on Bill Kenny. Well, they ruled that an incomplete pass.
Interesting. Very interesting. Once again from the line of scrimmage behind the defense. I have the feeling that this was Art Still once again. DeBerg looking at that receiver. Let's see if we can get the hand up. Art Still. I can't believe that guy. Is there more than one of him out there today?
And here's Luke Prestridge, who is having a delightful first half, averaging just under 50. Calling to Anthony Hancock. Look out. And recovered back of the end. Wade Manning of Denver had an excellent shot in the end zone to recover for the 6, but could not come up with the football.
Boy, is that lucky.
And they'll bring it out to the 20.
That's historically.
Kansas City recovers the ball in the end for a touchdown. First down on the 20.
Thank you. Historically, that is the type of ball that Denver generally plays. 65 yards on that punt, and you'll see the ball kind of sail by Hancock. And historically, you have seen the Denver Broncos take these turnovers, turn them into touchdowns or possessions in good field position and run it in. But the Kansas City Chiefs got nothing. They got lucky. They still lead 3-0.
3 minutes gone by, second quarter in Denver, Colorado. And the Denver Broncos now 1st and 10 from the 20 off the touchback, the muff punt by Anthony Hancock.
That's the Denver offensive line huddling there with their offensive coaches trying to get things straightened out. They've produced very little offense so far.
James Hadnot. And a penalty marker down.
Didn't catch that one. Offsides defense.
The Denver Broncos being hit as we check the scoreboard. Green Bay leading Baltimore 20-13 in the fourth quarter. Buffalo in front of Tampa Bay 6-0 in the first. New England leading Seattle 3-0. Don't need the snowplow of that one. And New Orleans and Dallas scoreless in the second. It'll be a 1st and 5 at the 25 for Kansas City. Off the penalty called on Denver. Bill Kenny is 1 through 5 thus far, 26 yards. Long count by Kenny. And this is Hadnot. James Hadnot in his 3rd season out of Texas Tech, goes 6'2", 245 pounds. Last year had an outstanding season, a turn from a disappointing rookie year. Larry Evans, Aaron Kyle combining on the stop.
Relative of yours?
Yes. Close personal friend.
I wonder where his tailor is.
It is a 1st and 10 from the 31 as Hadnot able to pick it up.
Kansas City continuing to go with the 2 tight ends, 1 wide receiver, and 2 running backs here.
Off the play action, looking for Marshall. Overthrown, intended for Henry Marshall, who was covered by Steve Wilson.
And Marv, I think that's the first time that Bill Kenny has had a chance to go back, set up, take a good look at the receiver, lead him properly, wait for the play to develop. Look at that, 1 of 6, and most of those are because of pressures up front. Watch the time he finally has. You see 51, Swenson in there on the blitz. He sets up, a couple of choppy steps, and this is just slightly overthrown. He needs that much time in order to get the ball down the field, and to this point in the game, Kansas City basically has not allowed him that much time.
Last week against the Raiders, Kenny came on for Fuller in the fourth quarter. James Hadnot getting to the 35-yard line. Right now, let's go to our studios in New York.
Thank you, Marv Albert. This is Mike Adamley in Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers find themselves in a must-win situation, but here quarterback Doug Williams is intercepted by Buffalo's Eugene Marv, and the Bills have retained a 6-0 lead at game in the second quarter. Marv?
All right, Mike, and here Kansas City maintaining a 3-0 lead on the 47-yard field goal by Nick Lowry. 3rd down and 5 at the 36. Early intercepted. Almost picked it off. The pass intended for Carlos Carson.
Pressure once again. Barney Chavis right in the face of Bill Kenny. Kenny is now, I believe, 1 of 7 in passing. We'll watch this again. He's waiting for the guy to come around. There you see Rulon Jones, 75, almost. And the ball thrown behind Carlos Carson. Just set him off his pattern a little bit, his timing.
And now Case DeBruin, bad snap. Finally picks up some yardage. Upchurch out to the 15.
Watch out for this guy.
Upchurch to the 21 on the return. The rookie from Idaho State, Case DeBruin. with a 56-yard punt, preceded by 16 and 17 yards at the 21 off the punt return by Rick Upchurch. The quarterback, Steve DeBerg, and the running backs, Rick Harris and A. Preston. That is Upchurch in motion, followed across. Dump off for Preston. Dave Preston out near the 40 for a first down and more. Steve DeBerg shaken up. Looks to be all right.
19 yards on the catch. And this was a little bit of a screen, but there was no one out in front of Preston. You'll see him there, and he engages a defensive lineman there. A little help on Art Still once again. And then it's kind of a jump pass from DeBerg. Preston, one of the best receivers that the Denver Broncos have as a running back, makes it good. Watch again the pressure once again by Art Still outside. Jump pass, and it's good for 19 yards.
And back live, first down at the 41-yard line. Nice move by Gerald Wilhite. That's out of the Marcus Allen playbook.
Looked like Carl Lewis there, the world record holder, I should say the American record holder in the long jump. Or a Pete Rose head first slide. Nevertheless, good for about 8 yards, 5 of it in the air.
It was Gerald Wilhite.
Yes, it was.
The rookie out of San Jose State. Picking up the 7, second down and 3 for Denver. At the Denver 48-yard line, and Dan Reeves continues to shuffle. Dave Preston is back.
Now Denver seems to be back in the ballgame a little bit. Got their minds right.
That's Watson in motion. And a reverse. This is Upchurch looking to throw. Couldn't find anyone. He was looking downfield for Watson, who was double covered down at the 30, and the pursuit by Howard and Blandum ran him out.
Marv, I'll tell you what, I think that was designed for Upchurch to throw the ball back to Steve DeBerg. Watch it first goes to Preston, then to Upchurch, and I think, see, he sees 34 Burris there on the safety blitz. I think it was to go back to DeBerg, but Upchurch taking things in his own hand. And he seems to have hurt himself a little bit. He's still on the sideline, got the wind knocked out of him. He's in amongst the trainers, the doctors there. But it's still 3rd down and 7 now for Denver.
Ball at the 44-yard line. And an official time was called. Let's see.
Charge. Timeout. Kansas City.
Kansas City calling for timeout.
They only had 10 guys on the field.
All right, Kansas City wisely calling for time. 5.5 gone by in the second quarter. The Chiefs lead 3-0.
Business. To be in the picture, you gotta be good.
And there's 5-time Pro Bowler Randy Gradishar, one of the keys to the Denver defensive unit. The Broncos this season have had problems defensively.
Raised in Champion, Ohio.
How do you know that?
Because I'm from Ohio.
Marv Albert with Ohioan Bob Trumpy from Denver. 3rd down and 7 at the 44.
Oh, intercepted.
Eric Harris on the intercept. Eric Harris with Jim White to beat. Beautiful change of direction, and Harris for the touchdown.
No flags. That counts. 82, Orlando McDaniel fell down on the ground. Eric Harris was right there to make the reception. It wasn't even difficult.
And Steve DeBerg intercepted for the 8th time this season, and not a happy guy. And the same for this man, Dan Reeves. Eric Harris, who was a question mark today because of a groin injury, did not play last week, but picks it off and takes all the way.
You see that McDaniel slips a little bit, and then Harris just turns it into a good return. This guy they got 2 years ago out of Canada, and is a great interception man for Kansas City.
And Nick Lowry drills it through to give Kansas City a 10-0 lead, a 50 6-yard return on the intercept by Eric Harris, 3-year man in the NFL out of Memphis State. He played 3 years in Canada before signing with Kansas City. From Mile High Stadium in Denver. Denver Broncos in a must-win situation. They cannot lose another game this season. If they do, they are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. And trailing right here off the interception by that guy, Eric Harris.
His 16th interception as a Kansas City Chief. Last year he had 7. Year before he had 7. His second this year. Return for a touchdown. That's one way that the defense can help. No sack involved there.
6 minutes gone by, second quarter. Wade Manning, the 3-year man out of Ohio State, playing with a sore shoulder on the return, stopped by Lewis Haynes, backup outside linebacker. And so the Broncos, who showed some signs during the course of the last series and then coughed it up on the interception, back to the offense starting at their own 22.
And I wonder when this game is over, regardless of the outcome, what people are going to ask Dan Reeves about that first pass. Lost yardage, but extended the record of consecutive completions by Steve DeBerg to 18, now in the record book by himself. Someone's going to say you're more interested in records than winning.
Right here is DeBerg on first down. And almost picked off again on the deflection, but a penalty marker is down. The intended receiver was Steve Watson, covered by the free safety Gary Barbaro.
That's on Kansas City, thrown rather late. And thrown from behind the receiver and the defensive back.
Defense, number 24, first down.
Well, they're calling it on Gary Green, the left cornerback. Gary Green, who last week against the Raiders had an interception and a fumble recovery. Hit for the interference. First down for Denver at their 40-yard line. They're trailing 10-0. This is Wilhite. Harold Wilhite to the 43. Gary Green there to make the stop.
Tackle missed by Thomas Howard there. Wilhite with good movement as you look at the standings. Los Angeles victory over Los Angeles yesterday assures them of a spot in the playoffs.
The Jets needed a victory but fell short against Miami. And here are the clubs tightly bunched. And these are the clubs down the stretch battling it out. Denver, as we said, must win its final 3. And Kansas City, although not mathematically eliminated, virtually playing it out. Here's Preston. Gary Sweeney making the stop. And Preston with another reception and picks up the first down.
They seem to be picking on Thomas Howard, number 52, that side of the defense. That's the second time that they've thrown it out in that direction. Preston just out of the backfield, obviously the alternate receiver. And you see the good breakaway by Preston, good enough for the first down. Tackle by Spaney and Burris.
And Denver first down at the Kansas City 46-yard line. Winder lined up behind Paris and takes it. Sammy Winder. And he has a first down. Gary Green on the stop. Sammy Winder averaging 4 yards a carry. 5th round draft pick out of Southern Mississippi.
Good ability shown by Winder, too, with Peros up front. We'll see some good blocking there. Winder realizing where that hole is. You see Howard outside. Winder right up the middle. 11 yards on the carry. Good enough for a first down. And Paul Howard, number 60, I believe, was the man who made the big block on that particular play. Cutting down Arch Still at the line of scrimmage.
Howard, the right guard, in his 9th year out of Brigham Young. Quick opener for Wilhite. Gets to the 31. Gary Spaney, inside linebacker on the right. And the man on the left, Jerry Blanton, combining on the tackle.
Ooh. Could Baltimore win its first game of the season? How much time left in the fourth quarter? 26 seconds, we understand. Could go to overtime.
All right, right here, second down and 6 at the 31. And DeBerg going deep. Intended for Upchurch. Well covered. Gary Green with him.
It's interesting that Kansas City will, a lot of times you'll see a formation where the two wide receivers are on the same side of the field, and Kansas City will take their cornerbacks and cover those receivers. Another score, Dallas over New Orleans, 7-0 in the second quarter. So my point is that they can keep the quick cornerbacks on those quick wide receivers and they don't lose anything in speed. A lot of teams will, as the two wide receivers go to one side or the other, they'll cover them with a strong or weak safety and a cornerback.
Harrison Green at the corners. The nickelback now, Deron Cherry, along with Boris and Bobrow. That is the secondary for Kansas City. 3rd down and 6. Lots of time. And the first down picked up by, Dave Preston again.
And once again, Thomas Howard, the man in coverage. Now, this was kind of a busted play, although you can see the difference between Denver and Kansas City. Time for the quarterback. DeBerg could look around, 17 yards on the catch by Preston. Watch again from the shotgun. Now, I got to believe that Preston is at least their 3rd or 4th receiver. Look at the time he has. Waits for Preston to break away from Howard, and there for the completion.
Denver first down at the Kansas City 14-yard line. They're trailing 10-0. Sammy Winder. Stopped by Gary Spaney. Picked up a yard on the play. Right here we pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
News Channel.
Marv Albert along with Bob Trumpy from Denver, Colorado. As you look at the man who has been perfect, Rich Carlson, 9 for 9.
Timeout.
Field goal kicking.
Excuse me, Marv. Timeout by Kansas City. Hands on hips. They appear to be tired.
5 minutes, 2 seconds remaining in this first half. And Kansas City leading 10-0.
There's a
38-year-old Dan Reeves, second year as head coach of Denver. Last year, record of 10 up and 6 down. And Marv Levy, in his 5th year as head man of Kansas City, might be on the hot seat after last year's record of 9 and 7. Chief just missing the playoffs, but they have faltered this season. 2nd and 9 for Denver at the 13. Good pressure, and DeBerg is hauled down.
I think we got a flag on Kansas City. I think Art Steele jumped offside, so that sack is not going to count. Yes, it is. They did get him. They did get him. I think that's 67 White. I'll tell you what, Kansas City's defense got to be a little tired because Denver had a pretty good drive. Then the interception returned for a touchdown. Kansas City's defense comes right back on the field again.
It was Ken Kramer, number 91, who got to the quarterback, but that appears to be nullified. Yes, it is Art Still called for the offside. So it will be 2nd and 9.
2nd and 5.
Took a 2nd and 4 from the 8. Just under 5 remaining in this first half. This is Winder. Picking his way. Sammy Winder. Stopped by Bobrow and Spaney. And it's a 1st and goal for Denver.
And that's bad news when you got the free safety and the middle linebacker making the tackle. Obviously, Denver doing a good job of knocking those defensive linemen down, and I do note that they ran away from Art Still. Once again, you'll see the sweep. Both guards pull. Winder gets his shoulders upfield. There's Barbaro, the free safety. Spaney does make contact, although Peros puts a good block on him, but it's good for a 1st down. 1st and goal.
And Winder, as you saw, running very well. He's combining now with Peros. This is Winder. Oh, a tough tackle by number 51, Charles Jackson, 5-year man out of the University of Washington.
Well, I'll make another note here. That handoff was almost missed between DeBerg and Winder. It came very, very close to being on the ground. Watch the stretch. You see there, he almost dropped that thing. But in the air, Jackson really makes the contact, and it's good for about 9 inches worth of gain. Watch this. It doesn't quite get there, and it was close to being a fumble.
It is a 2nd and goal at the 2. Here's Wilhite.
Touchdown.
Gerald Wilhite. Battling his way in. Oh.
I'll tell you what. Everybody's cheering. Well, I think Dan Reeves ought to fine him for that. To break him in that habit. That's nice. It ignites the crowd. But I want to remind you what happened to Drew Pearson last year when he went up with a super spike, popped the cartilage in his knee, and was embarrassed for 3 weeks and could barely play. That's nice. Great athletic ability. I don't think that's called for in this game.
And that is similar to the controversy going on around the New York Jets. As Rich Carlos put it right off the mark. Rich Carlos missing on the extra point. We'll get back to that point about Wilhite as a timeout has been called in Kansas City, leading it by the score of 10-6. Well, Rich Carlos had been perfect 9 for 9 in the field goal department and 12 for 12 for points after, and missing on the extra point.
You were talking about Wilhite and New York?
Right, Mark Gastineau, with the theatrics following a sack, has annoyed several of his teammates and obviously would annoy the opposition, and perhaps we can relate that to the move by Wilhite following the touchdown. The rookie out of Tennessee, who has had an outstanding day getting across the 20-yard line, and Kansas City to the offense. They lead it by the score of 10-6, 3:16 left in this first half. Next Sunday, the NFL makes its move into the stretch run for the Super Bowl, leading off the day with 3 regional contests. Then Richard Todd and the Jets go against the Minnesota Vikings, plus 2 other key games. 4 o'clock Eastern time, it'll be Denver and the LA Raiders. And it all starts with NFL 82. Check your listings for the time and game in your area. Henry Marshall with a short pickup out to the 28-29-yard line. Tom Jackson, Steve Wilson combined on the tackle.
Good job by the defense of the Denver Broncos there. That was just a little hitch pattern, taking advantage of the cushion allowed by the defensive back on the receiver. Both were able to get out there and hold Marshall to just a 3-yard gain.
It'll be a 2nd and 7. The ball spotted across the 28. Billy Jackson, James Hadnot on the running backs. Carlos Carson to the right and Henry Marshall to the left. Now they go 1 deep man and Hadnot. Kenny able to complete. Al Dixon, the tight end. First down and much more. So Dixon, who caught 6 passes last week on the reception. Dennis Smith and Steve Wilson making the tackle.
Once again, time for Kenny to throw the ball. And I do believe Dixon is the primary receiver here. 18 yards on the catch. And you see he has time to set up. He's waiting for Dixon to clear the linebackers. And then poor tackling by Gradishar and Jackson. That's unusual for those 2 gentlemen. They are normally bone-jarring tacklers. First down, Kansas City.
2:25 left in this first half. Billy Jackson stacked up. Nowhere to go. The nose tackle, number 68, Reuben Carter, leading the assault.
All right, last year a Pro Bowler, an all-NFL performer, Bo Swenson, back in the ball game. He gets down. He can probably play defensive end because he's about that size with the inactivity. He was a holdout for the Denver Broncos, still trying to work himself back into shape. He was a Pro Bowl performer last season. One of the secrets to their defense, and they played virtually without him this year.
Bob Swenson making his return to the lineup last week. Kansas City head coach Marv Levy looking things over with a 2nd and 10 for his Chiefs at the 47-yard line.
Kenny, to this point in the first half, 3 of 9, just 48 yards passing.
We have 2 minutes remaining in the first half. And a fumble on the snap. And Kansas City recovering. Kenny on the recovery.
Boy, it's got to be frustrating for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Sets up a third down. And another timeout has been called, this time by the Broncos, when we pick it up, third down and 10 at the 47.
That sign for Craig Morton, who will retire officially at halftime here in Denver. Let's watch the center exchange between Rudney. No, they don't have Rudney at center. I wondered why in the world that they would have problems. That's Les Studdard at center with Kenny, and it did appear that Studdard was having problems with Reuben Carter. And therefore, the missed snap. Once again, Studdard at center.
Rudney has been in and out of the lineup, but he has had a bad back. It is a third down and 10 now. Kenny put down. That's the first sack of the day for the Denver Broncos. Bill Kenny swarmed under. Dennis Smith and Greg Boyd combining. That's Boyd 77.
Interesting that you got a strong safety blitz. Obviously, Denver has very little respect for the Kansas City passing game. And even though that was the first sack of the day, he wants a timeout. He got it finally. He wants the clock stopped. There's 1:44 left. The point I was going to try to make is that Kenny has not had time all day long to throw it. Even though that's the first sack, there have been pressures all over the place in the first half, and therefore Kansas City can't throw the ball.
Preceding announcement was furnished as a public service by the National Football League. And the Kansas City Chiefs now in punt formation off the first sack of the day by Denver. The blitz causing major problems this season for Kansas City.
Case de Bruin with his fourth punt in the NFL. He has a 30.3-yard average. His longest today, 56. His shortest, 16.
Running now to Upchurch. At the 30. DeBruin is back. Upchurch going all the way.
No flags.
Yard punt return for a touchdown. They're going wild in Denver. Rick Upchurch has tied the NFL record most punt return touchdown, tying a fellow by the name of Jack Christensen,
who used to be the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, did he not?
Right.
There was a time in the Denver press guide where they had over the first 2 or 3 years of his career that every time he touched the ball, he averaged 16.3 yards per pass reception, per run, per kickoff return. Extra point good. And Denver is back in the ball game.
So Rick Carlos, who missed the last extra point attempt, able to put one through. And Rick Upchurch causing this crowd to explode as the Denver Broncos take a 13-10 lead on Kansas City.
Now, you know, the interesting thing, I believe De Bruin did exactly as Kansas City wanted, and that was to pin Upchurch in to one side of the field. But instead of going to the wide side of the field, he went right straight up the field, 78 yards on the return. And that ties the record held by Jack Christensen. How many touchdowns is that for him? That's 8 touchdowns. And 2 this year by Rick Upchurch. Here's the last man to stop Rick Upchurch. That's an all-pro move. My goodness.
It has been a very tough debut for the punter, Case de Bruin. A minute 26 remaining in this first half. And the Broncos now with a 3-point lead, 13-10. Try to keep it away from Hancock and not allowing a return. Good kickoff by Rick Carlos. And Kansas City will put it in play on the 20-yard line.
That's the second punt return against the Kansas City Chiefs in this season, and the only two against Marv Levy as a coach. I was just looking here, trying to find the longest punt return that Rick Upchurch has had for a touchdown. I'd say that's very, very close to it. 78 yards.
Kansas City, 1st and 10 from the 20. Henry Marshall across the 30 for a first down, wrestled down by Steve Wilson.
I believe Jim Sacamano of the Denver Broncos press staff just told us that that was the third longest punt return. Can you imagine that? Of Rick Upchurch's career, 78 yards.
First down at the 31. And the swing, James Hadnot. Ruled out of bounds just inside the 35, and we have 59 seconds remaining in this first half. Coming up at halftime, a review of what is going on around the NFL. NFL 82, Len Berman, Mike Adamle, plus the Craig Morton retirement ceremony that will take place right here at Mile High Stadium. Craig calling it quits after 18 years in the National Football League. Spent the last 6 here in Denver, had some big seasons with the Broncos, including leading the Broncos to the Super Bowl back in 1977. Second down and 6. Kenny overthrowing. He had 2 intended receivers out there, tight end Al Dixon, along with Henry Marshall.
I don't mean to harp on this point, but Rick Upchurch in his career has had a return of 92 yards, one of 87. And the 78-yarder, the third longest of his career.
Rick Upchurch in his 8th season out of the University of Minnesota, who has had his ups and downs. Last year, 32 receptions, disappointing number, although he did play hurt. But the crowd has had a up and down relationship here in Denver with Rick Upchurch. 54 seconds left first half. Third down and 6. Look out. And that is sack number 2 for the Broncos. Randy Gradishar. Randy Gradishar getting to the quarterback, Bill Kenny.
This has got to be frustrating for Kansas City for a couple of points. One, it just seems to come down to one big play that beats Kansas City, and that punt return may in fact do it. And then 2, their inability to protect the quarterback. Watch Gradishar, 53, fakes like he's going back in coverage, and then there does seem to be confusion. Getty and Condon both on one man. Gradishar left scot-free to make the sack. The second of the day, and Kenny has been pressured many, many times in this first half. Still no protection for the Kansas City quarterback.
And a timeout has been called with 49 seconds left. Coming your way Christmas Day here on NBC, a special holiday edition of NBC Sports World. Bruce Jenner, your host, as we bring you a special performance of Dorothy Hamill's Skating Magic, plus the thrills of the World Ice Speedway Motorcycle Championship and World Pro Skiing from Lake Tahoe. That'll be next Saturday, 4 o'clock Eastern Time on NBC's Sports World. Case DeBruin, who has had himself an adventure punting to Gerald Wilhite, so a respite for Rick Upchurch, and again a poor punt by DeBruin, line driving it. And 41 seconds remaining in this first half. The Broncos have taken a 13-10 lead. This time DeBruin with a 43-yard punt. And Denver taking over at its 29-yard line. The story here in the first half, 2 exciting returns. Eric Harris on the interception for 56 yards for Kansas City. And then it was Rick Upchurch on the punt return, going 78 yards for the touchdown. First down at the 29.
Looks like they're going for more from the shotgun. 4 receivers.
And the completion to Wilhite at the 35-yard line. Harold Wilhite stopped by the strong safety Lloyd Burris.
No huddle play, Marv. They're going to try to get it at least in field goal range, it appears.
As a 2nd and 3. Diving attempt, let's see. Yes, it is complete for the first down. Rick Upchurch. Eric Harris covering up, so a first down at midfield for the Broncos. 15 seconds left in the half.
And look what that punt return has done for the Denver Broncos. Obviously puts points on the board, but I believe it's taken all the steam out of the Kansas City Chiefs. 14-yard on the catch. He does get out of bounds. And there's now 15 seconds left, and they can probably get 2 more plays off, plus the field goal attempt.
Upchurch left, Watson right. DeBerg going sideline and completes. Beautiful catch by Watson, and he got out of bounds at the 41. Clock is running, though.
I don't understand that. He did get out of bounds, but the officials are ruling that. I don't know what they're ruling there. I think the clock should have been stopped. Dan Reeves, I believe, is also rather upset that the clock was not stopped.
The Broncos did not have any timeouts left. And Reeves felt that Watson got out of bounds, but the official said no, the play was blown dead. Inbound. So we're at halftime, and the Denver Broncos leading the Kansas City Chiefs. Marv Albert with Bob Trumpy at halftime. The Denver Broncos leading the Kansas City Chiefs by the score of 13-10. And down on the field, they are preparing for Craig Morton. Here he comes, making his entrance retirement ceremonies for Denver quarterback Craig Morton, and the crowd responding.
You know, it's funny too, but because I imagine in Craig Morton's career, many times here, many times in Dallas, he was certainly not treated the way the fans are treating him today. But when someone retires, all the bad games are forgotten and only the good games are remembered.
And with Craig, the chairman of the board of the Denver Broncos, that is Edgar Kaiser alongside him. Craig Morton, the only 18-year man currently active in the NFL, did not dress for the game. There is a chance in the final games of the season that he might see some action as a token move by Dan Reeves. That's son Michael and Craig's wife Susan.
Morton had double arthroscopic surgery last week and still able to get out of the bed and walk down here. I believe that's his high school football coach. He had no idea that he was going to show up. 18 years comes to a close.
Here's Edgar
The
Kaiser.
oldest active player in the National Football League. For 6 years, the heart of the Denver Broncos. And for 22 years, close friends. There are 75,000 people here who love you, Craig. It's your day.
Thank you, Denver. Thank you so very much. This is much harder than any game I've ever attempted to play. But I want you to know how very dearly I'm appreciative of all the great things you've done for me and my family. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Rick Upchurch. He makes this a little easier to come out here. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all I can say to you. I appreciate you so very much. I love Denver. I love the Broncos. And I love everything about everybody here. I thank my family, my friends that came today. If you want to find us, just follow some orange banners tonight. That's where we'll be. Thank you.
Craig Morton on his day here in Denver. Craig Morton, 18-year man in the National Football League. Only George Blanded, Earl Morrow, Len Dawson have played more. NFL 82 halftime activities will continue in a moment. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Back in Denver, Marv Albert and Bob Trumpy as we get set for the second half. This is Rich Carlos getting set to kick off. That's the key man, Anthony Hancock, a rookie out of Tennessee. Denver Broncos leading it by the score of 13-10. Hancock at his 5. Out to the 20. Hancock to the 40. Running by the kicker. Look at this. Anthony Hancock with a sensational return.
No flags whatsoever. And the only guy that touched him tackled him.
J.T. Thomas getting to Hancock. Well, it's been a game of tremendous return work. We saw Rick Upchurch go 78 yards for a score, and here's Hancock nearly breaking one.
He took the ball at the 4-yard line, and Carlos misses him. My goodness gracious, 68 yards on the return, and Kansas City's not about to fold. I admire that. I'm sure Marv Levy does too. Down 13-10 and just having a punt return against them for a touchdown. They're not willing to give up.
First down at the 28-yard line for the Kansas City Chiefs. Jackson and Hadnot, the running backs. This is Hadnot. And bumped out at the 23, Jim Ryan, the outside linebacker on the left. So a 5-yard pickup. It'll be a second down and 5.
Look at those first half stats. Look at the time of possession by the Broncos. 18 minutes out of the 30 total yards. The Chiefs have had no luck whatsoever. And, of course, they're still faced with the problem of any time they call a pass down the field, that pass rush, the blitzes, and no time for the quarterback to throw it. So they have to continue to dump it out and flat to the running backs.
Carlos Carson lined up to the right. Henry Marshall left. Looking for Marshall is Kenny. And then he went for the
flag
tight
down.
end.
Yes, sir.
Al Dixon, the intended receiver, an interference call.
Dennis Smith, their feet seemed to catch. And the official couldn't find his flag, but the contact was slight, but nevertheless it was there.
Al Dixon running a post pattern and interfered with. We'll get the word from the referee, Jim Tunney.
Number 49, 2-yard line, first down.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a very efficient drive. They've had the ball a grand total of about 36 seconds. There you see their feet collide. And that technically is pass interference.
And they go double tight end. Beckman along with Dixon. First and goal at the 2. Beckman in motion. Billy Jackson gets to the 1. Billy Jackson starting today at halfback. James Hadnot at fullback. What with the injury suffered by Joe Delaney, who is sitting it out because of a sprained knee.
Marv, last week the Kansas City Chiefs had 3 shots at it inside the 5-yard line, had to settle for a field goal and lost yardage. So if they can get the ball in the end zone here, number 1, it'll be the first touchdown they score today. The only touchdown they've scored is a pass interception returned by Eric Harris.
First touchdown by the offense. Here's Beckman in motion.
Oh, maybe.
Good second effort by Jackson, but can't get in. Dennis Smith had the wraps, and Jackson could not pull away.
It's hard to believe, as big as the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line are, generally with good strength. Herkenhoff, Buddy. They've got Jack Rudney at center, Condon, Getty. They've played an awful lot together. It's rather surprising that they can't get the ball in the end zone. But watch closely the Denver Bronco defense. Their middle linebacker, Randy Gradishar, will line up about 5.5 yards deep. And he's the one to try to stop the guy coming over on that jump from the offensive backfield.
3rd and goal at the 1. The tight end Dixon split wide right. And this time, let's see, Kenny's
on the line,
indicating touchdown. Billy Jackson very close.
Oh, I can't believe it. I thought he was on the line.
He is short of the goal line.
You go for it. You're 1 and 5. You're down 13-10. You go for it.
Chiefs looking over at Marv Levy. Here's another look at the play.
You'll see Beckman, 85, on the trap up to the middle. Now the ball is not over the line. I stand corrected. That ball never broke the plane of the goal line. So it's now 4th down and less than the length of the football for a touchdown.
Crowd reacting to the defense. And Kenny putting it in the air. Touchdown, Al Dixon. Just did make the reception with his feet in bounds at the back of the end zone. The tight end, Al Dixon, with the score.
You know, that's just the 5th touchdown by the pass that the Chiefs have scored. And the interesting thing is here, I believe, is that if they don't score, that's 1 foot. He got him in. Good job. Good job. And watch the head coach, Marv Levy. He'll tell you what happens and when it happens. Well,
he's not sure.
That's that Phi Beta Kappa. Very reserved.
All right, Nick Lowry with the extra point. So the Kansas City Chiefs, helped by the interference call on Dennis Smith, put up 7, and they now lead the Denver Broncos 17-13 of Ebola. And by Atari, the leader in home video games. For fun your whole family can share. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs have moved in front of the Denver Broncos 17-13. The touchdown reception by Al Dixon, his 2nd TD of the year. And the kickoff by Nick Lowry. Wade Manning out to the 10. Manning in a reversal got caught.
Poor choice.
So Denver will start out deep in its own territory, but first let's go to New York for an update.
Thank you, Marv. This is Len Berman. 1 second left in overtime in Baltimore, tied with Green Bay at 20-20. Hagel throws up a prayer. It is not answered. The game ends in a tie. Maybe Baltimore won't win one this year, but at least they won't lose them all. Back to you, Marv.
Point by Len. All right.
There's not much solace in that. Marv, a point on that last touchdown by Kansas City. I believe they tricked the Denver Broncos and tricked them good, because if that ball is thrown in the end zone and it's an incomplete pass, the ball comes out to the 20-yard line. I don't think that Denver ever expected Kansas City to throw that ball. Therefore, Dixon was wide open and the touchdown.
Well, they would figure they'd go back to Jackson or
sure.
Had not. All right, DeBerg off the swing, trying to unleash Upchurch, but not able to. Gary Barbaro, number 26, the free safety in his 7th year out of Nicholls State, making the stop on that man, Rick Upchurch, who returned a punt late in the 2nd quarter for 78 yards and the score. Right now, Denver's 2nd and 7, back at their 12. 3 minutes gone by in this 3rd quarter, and the Chiefs leading the Broncos 17-13. Upchurch to the left, and Watson to the right. This is Wilhite on the slant, out across the 15. Dave Lindstrom and Charles Jackson involved in the tackle.
Kansas City has basically done a good job defensively along the line of scrimmage today, allowing very little rushing yardage by the Denver Broncos.
3rd down and 4 upcoming as you look at the Kansas City defensive unit. Still Kramer, Lindstrom up front, Howard, Blanton, Klug, Jackson. The linebackers, Green, Boris, Barbaro, and Harris in the secondary.
Klug is in for Gary Spaney, who was suffering from the flu and had a very, very bad night last night, so probably somewhat out of wind and not feeling very well.
And DeBerg putting it up. Ron Egloff, the backup tight end. picking up the first down, covered by Lloyd Burris.
Paid the price, too, on the tackle, but nevertheless, good concentration on the football by Egloff. And a good touch by Steve DeBerg, throwing over the defensive man and right into Egloff's hands. 15 yards on the catch. Here's motion to and from, back and forth. Now on the line of scrimmage. And if we can watch the end of this play, it looks to me like it's Jackson that DeBerg throws the ball over. Good touch. And Burris with the hit.
It'll be a 1st and 10 at the 30-yard line. Sammy Winder off the spin to the 34. Winder, the rookie from Southern Mississippi. 5th-round draft pick of Denver, stopped by Dave Klug. 5-yard advance. It'll be a 2nd down and 5. Sammy Winder averaging just under 5 yards per carry. Denver with Claude Miner, Tom Glassick, Billy Bryan, Paul Howard, and Ken Lanier up front. DeBerg going deep for Upchurch. Overthrows. Upchurch putting the speed on against Eric Harris, and a flag is down.
It's in the spot where it's generally holding on the offense. It's holding on the offense.
Good, Bob.
Denver has had a lot more time to throw the ball. One of the reasons is that they have running backs who can really pass protect to help their quarterback.
Holding 62. 10 yards. Still 2nd down.
So it's Tom Glassick, the left guard, called for the hold.
And as I said, running backs who can block. Watch Gerald Wilhite here. Fakes the handoff, and then Blanton cuts his legs out from underneath him. And that's one of the reasons why DeBerg has had a lot of time to throw the ball today.
And now DeBerg with a 2nd and 15 from the 25. 5.5 gone by. As DeBerg falls down, he slipped off the handoff. Some mix-up on the handoff. Don Parrish making the stop.
Could you tell if his feet got caught up with the center, Billy Bryan, or did he just slip on the turf? Generally, this turf allows you very, very good footing. It's the PAT surface, and it's grass over sand, and it's water underneath. They keep it pretty fresh out here. This is a great place to play football, even at this elevation. It is a great stadium to play football in. For you or against you, the fans are very outspoken, they're very demonstrative, and it's fun to play here.
3rd down, 18. This is Preston trying to pick his way and hit back at the 25-yard line. So Denver off the penalty, having difficulty on this series. Charles Jackson, outside linebacker, making the stop.
Word from the Kansas City bench, Spaney is on the sideline because of weakness from the flu. Possibly Klug will finish up the ball game for Mr. Spaney. That's a devastating loss to the Chief defense. They're already missing Mike Bell. And now with Spaney out, he's been their leading tackler the last few years.
Luke Prestridge has had a sensational day. That's Anthony Hancock awaiting the punt. Prestridge back at his 12. Big rush. Gary Green right on the scene. Hancock fair catching for the first time today. And Kansas City will take over at its 37-yard line. 8:27 remaining in this 3rd quarter off the 43-yard punt by Prestridge.
Without him defensively for the rest of the day, it appears.
Bill Kenny to throw with time. And it is picked off by Aaron Kyle. Aaron Kyle on the intercept. So Denver will take over now in Kansas City territory. 3rd interception of the season for Kyle, who has been going at free safety this afternoon.
We'll watch Randy Gradishar. He's right in front of 81. Willie Scott, the ball is overthrown. It looks like a jump ball. And he hangs on to Willie Scott. The interception by Aaron Kyle. Then a block. Add insult to injury. 1st and 10, Denver. And once again, the defense has turned it over for them. And Mr. Kenny has had no luck whatsoever today.
And so a timeout has been called with 8:16 remaining in this third quarter. Steve DeBerg and Denver taking over a moment ago. Bill Kenny intercepted for the fourth time this season. There are the stats on DeBerg, who did go into the record books by himself earlier today. First series swing pass that lost yardage, completing with Dave Preston to make it 18 consecutive completed passes, carrying over from last week where he hit his last 17. First and 10 at the Kansas City 42. Immediate hit by Eric Harris on Steve Watson. And right here, let's pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network. Marv Albert, Bob Trumpy, Mile High Stadium in Denver. Sellout crowd, of course, better than 75,000 on hand. And it's a 2nd and 5 at the 37.
Steve DeBerg has now completed 8 straight.
Oh, a new streak developing.
A new streak.
And DeBerg putting it up again. Beautiful catch, but short of the first down. The catch by Gerald Wilhite. Eric Harris on the coverage.
9 for 9 now. We'll keep track. And the interesting thing is, I was part of a string that Ken Anderson had back in 1974 in Cincinnati, and Ken Anderson didn't realize he had a string. Burt Jones, the guy who set the record at 17, didn't realize he had a string, and DeBerg last week didn't realize he had a string.
You know, my dad told me about the string. He mentioned that you caught the last 3. Is that correct?
I think it was 4.
4.
Yes.
Oh.
Your dad told you that? He was there, was he?
3rd and 1. And a first down picked up. Rick Barros. Stopped by Harris and Burris. And right now, let's get back to New York. Here's an update from NFL 82.
This is Len Berman, NFL 82 in New York. Here come the Seattle Seahawks. Zorn throwing. Rick Sanford intercepts for the Patriots. They're battling for a playoff berth. So far, it's all Patriots. They continue to lead Seattle 13-0.
Thank you, Len. Back here, first down at the 29-yard line. Sammy Winder looking to make the turn and picks up yardage. Lloyd Burris, the strong safety, making the stop.
Paul Egloff, Egloff, tight end of the Denver Broncos, makes a great block on Art Still. Ron Egloff really knocks him down, and Winder up underneath those blocks by the Denver offensive line. Good first down yardage.
2nd down and 6 at the 25. I mentioned my father following the flight of the Cincinnati Bengals. I just began to watch football at that time. Just a little kid. He was explaining things to me.
Well, it was a flight. I'll grant you that.
And told me about a tight end by the name of Trumpy. Gerald Wilhite. Right near the first down mark. He tried to stretch it out a bit. Let's see where they spot it. Just inside the 19, Dave Klug. Right inside linebacker, making the stop, and they are calling for a measurement.
It does appear that Denver has decided to run on that Art Still side of the Kansas City defense. In the first half, the Kansas City defense was on the field 18 of the 30 minutes, and they've got to be tired at this point, and Denver taking advantage. First down, Denver.
Kansas City leading at 17-13. 47-yard field goal by Lowry early first quarter. 56-yard interception and a run back for the touchdown by Harris. As you see, Buffalo leads Tampa Bay in the third quarter. Wilhite took it in from 2 yards out. However, the extra point was missed by Rich Carlos. That made it 10-6 Kansas City. Then Kenny connected with Dixon to put KC ahead of the second quarter. And the punt return by Rick Upchurch, 78-yard return. This is Wilhite looking to throw, it appeared, but stopped by Jerry Blanton.
Good coverage on Rick Upchurch down the field. There were 3 Kansas City Chief defenders there, Burris, Green, and Barbaro. And unfortunately, Wilhite made no attempt to hide the fact that he was going to throw the ball from the outset, and that probably helped the Kansas City defense more than anything else.
will be a 2nd and 17 back at the 26-yard line. Dave Preston back in. Now Preston and Paris are the running backs.
Excuse me, Marv, but Preston has been the most reliable receiver that the Burgers had today. Again.
And he's looking for him. Overthrows within the double coverage. Lloyd Burris, Thomas Howard covering Preston. Preston has been the money player as usual, picking up first downs with his receptions. Right now, it is a 3rd and 17. We have 4:07 remaining in this third quarter, and Kansas City leading Denver 17-13.
Well, what Denver does not want to do here is give up the ball, because they're certainly within Rich Carlos's range. He has not missed a field goal yet this year, and I believe his longest has been 47 yards on the season, so they're in his range.
Cherry in as the extra defensive back, extra receiver. Wade Manning out of the shotgun. DeBerg with 3rd and long. Intended for the tight end, Jim Wright. And the fans looking for an interference with Cherry and Howard covering.
Good job by Cherry coming over from his free safety spot. He appeared to be the nickel back, and in desperation just threw his hand out there, and it was good enough to get in the way. You'll watch this. DeBerg once again with good time. Looks to the left, looks off that free safety, hopefully. But Cherry does not bite. There to knock the ball away. And Carlos in to try a field goal.
He is 9 for 9 this season. This a 44-yard attempt. DeBerg will hold. But first, a timeout is called by Kansas City.
10 men on the field by Kansas City. You wonder about that. 1 and 5.
Again, you called it earlier.
Yes.
All right, 4 minutes left. Third quarter. When we resume, Carlos will attempt the field goal.
When a business grows, it often grows out of control. Simple procedures.
All right, Rich Carlos, following the Kansas City timeout, will attempt one from 43 yards. Last week against the Rams, hit from 47 and 18, and looking to make it 10 out of 10. And Denver has to be aware of Stan Rome, who has come up with 3 blocks thus far this season for Kansas City. Well, Carlos gets it up and right through. He is 10 for 10, 43-yard field goal.
And this young man was the absolute tryout. He came just to a tryout camp, as you watch Rome on at 6'5", 210 pounds, really stretching out, sacrificing his body. But Carlos was one of 478. You missed it that time, pal. Very, very close. But Carlos was one of 478 guys just invited to a tryout and made the ball club and displaced Fred Steinfurt, who was, that's no small feat. He was an excellent kicker for Kansas City. Now 10 straight. Not bad.
All right, last year Steinfurt had a poor first half of the season, and then came on this after an all-pro year for the Broncos back in 1980. But there's the man, Rich Carlos, out of the University of Cincinnati, and he has brought Denver within 1, 17-16.
To make it even more amazing, Carlos for the University of Cincinnati was not a particularly good kicker. In fact, all he did was kick off. They had another guy to try field goals. Tampa Bay comes back with a touchdown and now leads Buffalo 17-16.
And here's the kickoff by Carlos. A short kick. Hancock takes to the 20. Anthony Hancock, very dangerous return man, out to the 27. All right, we have another update. Let's go back to our studios in New York.
Well, Marv, let's check out the Kingdome in Seattle. Theotis Brown gets the handoff for the Seahawks. They're trailing 13-0. Mike Haynes sticks him. The ball pops free. Andre Tippett, the rookie from Iowa, gets it. It's all New England still in the third quarter. Back to you, Marv.
Thank you, Len. First down and 10 from the 27-yard line for Kansas City. They lead Denver 17-16. 3:47 left, third quarter. Billy Jackson could not make the turn on Randy Gradishon.
Marv, that was Kansas City's 7th play of the second half. That shows you how little time they've had. Now watch Randy Gradishar. The last 7 years led the Denver Broncos in tackles, and he is a tough player to get around. You see that desperation tackle, and if he doesn't make it, nobody does for Denver generally.
1 yard pickup, second down and 9 at the 28. Jackson and Hadnot have gone all the way at the setback position. Carson peeling, and Kenny to throw. Looking for Carson. Carlos Carson. Pulled down by Dennis Smith.
And for once, Bill Kenny did not have to get up off the turf. He could see that from beginning to end. Interesting formation. Tandem. Carlos Carson and Henry Marshall. That was a 51-yard pass reception by Carlos Carson. And he just flat outran Dennis Smith down the middle. Good timing by Bill Kenny. Once again, watch the time he gets. That's the most important thing. Kansas City keeps both backs in. Still pressure in his face, but he puts it right on the money in full stride. And a saving tackle by Dennis Smith, 51 yards. First down and 10 for Kansas City at Denver's 21.
Running backs Jackson and Hadnot. Marshall in motion.
Oh, look at this. Tight end screen.
Al Dixon. Beautiful play. It'll be first and goal for the Chiefs.
Well set up, very well disguised. The half roll by Bill Kenny. There was no one out here. In fact, I'm surprised he didn't get in the end zone. He had 3 people out in front of him. Watch the way this sets up. Totally fooled Denver all the way. Rulon Jones on the pressure. Look at this. There's 3 guys, 3 offensive linemen out there. And with one move and a block by number 60 of the Kansas City Chiefs, Matt Herkenhoff, he's in the end zone. But nevertheless, first down at the 4.
17-yard pickup. Combination of Herkenhoff and Rourke. Jim Rourke leading the way for Al Dixon. Kansas City by 1, 17-16. And on the doorstep, first and goal at the 4. And he's stumbling. Overthrows Henry Marshall. Lost his footing. Dennis Smith covering Marshall on the play. There are the statistics on Bill Kenny. 9 out of 18 thus far today. Picked off once and also connected for his 4th touchdown of the season. Bill Kenny in his 4th year out of northern Colorado. Lives in Greeley, Colorado. And he has been in a shuffle all season long with Steve Fuller. Last week took over in the 4th quarter for Fuller. Fuller had started the 3 previous games. Second and goal at the 4. Lots of time, and he drills it. Marshall not able to hold on. That ball was thrown very, very hard.
Well, I think in that situation, you almost have to, Marv. If the ball had been thrown on the numbers for Henry Marshall, I think he'd have made the catch, but it was thrown slightly behind him. And in that situation, you've got to rifle it in there so that you do not give the defense a chance to intercept it, because if they do, it's generally 99 yards the other way.
Marv Levy, who has turned it around since taking over the Kansas City Chiefs in '78, but has been taking some heat this season with the record of 1-5. Third and goal at the 4. Willie Scott kept away by Lewis Wright. That time the bloop thrown by Kenny, and Scott was well covered.
It appeared that Denver had a zone on. And in that situation, zone coverage inside the 5-yard line is very unusual. But you can see Lewis Wright right there to make the tackle.
And upcoming a 19-yard attempt for Nick Lowry. He hit from 47 in the first quarter. He is 12 for 16 on the season. Steve Fuller will hold. And the kick is good. So Kansas City has moved in front of Denver by the score of 20-16. Only 16 seconds remaining, third quarter. Here today, they must win their final 3 to make the playoffs. One loss and it is all over. 16 seconds left, third quarter, and the Broncos now trailing Kansas City 20-16. Wade Manning at the goal line. Manning across the 20. Here's something that Bob Trumpy devised, a little theory relating back to the NFL player strike.
Well, it just struck me as strange. I wondered of the teams that won or lost their first game when the season resumed, how they've done. As you can see, for the teams that won their first game after the strike, 2 teams at 4-0. You've got 2 teams at 4-1. You've got 3 teams at 3-1. And on down the line, there you 3-2, and Cleveland is the only team that won their first game after the strike and has a losing record. On the other side of the coin, it's even more amazing. We'll give that to you in a minute.
And these stats do not include today's game.
Correct.
All right, first down from the 23. Only 6 seconds left, third quarter. And DeBerg going sideline for the tight end Jim Wright. First down out at the 40-yard line. Jerry Blanton making the stop as this third quarter has come to a conclusion. A 17-yard reception for Wright. And at the end of the third quarter, the score, Kansas City 20 and Denver 16. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Although Kansas City with a 20-16 lead as we go to the fourth quarter, it has been Denver enjoying the presence of the football. We'll get back to those intensive post-strike statistics on Mr. Trumpy in just a moment as we open up fourth quarter, 1st and 10 from the 40-yard line.
Nothing doing.
Gary Spaney all over Sammy Winder. So Spaney back in the lineup, although he's been under the weather. Dave Klug played most of the third quarter. Here it is, the rest of the Trumpy philosophy.
Now, these are the teams that had lost their first game after the strike. Look at there, Ford 0-4, Rams 1-4, Detroit 1-3, Denver 1-3.
Are you saying that as we look at the rest of the league, you're saying that many of these clubs really got down after losing their first game after the strike?
Yeah, I think that's it. Only 2 teams had winning records for first losing their game. Wilhite for a first down.
Gerald Wilhite snapping off a good run. Deron Cherry on the stop.
Interesting choice of plays. This is a good trick him. He sets up the throw, and then they get a running back to down block on Art Still, and Wilhite up the field. Deron Cherry almost missed the tackle there, or he might have gone for the distance.
17-yard run by Wilhite. First down at the Kansas City 48-yard line.
Blitz.
And the bird nearly picked off. Spaney got a hand on it.
They count it as a sack. Third sack of the day by the Kansas City Chiefs. They call it a sack. Once again, the play fake, and it appears that the linebacker, Jerry Blanton, is untouched. Nobody laid a hand on it. At that point, the officials blow the whistle. Almost intercepted by Spaney, but it wouldn't have counted.
Second down at 18, a loss of 8 on that sack. Back at the 44, minute and a half gone by in this fourth quarter. And there's Jerry Blanton, 4-year man out of Kentucky. Last year with knee problems, but came on strong at the end of the season. Wilhite and Parros, the running backs. Here's Wilhite again. Straight ahead move. Get back to the original line of scrimmage. Deron Cherry, second-year man out of Rutgers, making the stop. We have another update. Let's get back to our studios in New York.
Okay, Marv, let's check out the game in Tampa Bay. The rookie, Melvin Carver for the Bucs, takes it in. The Buffalo defense is breaking today. Tampa Bay continues to lead 24-16. Back to Marv and Bob.
All right, Len, right here, 12:40 remaining fourth quarter. Third down and 10 for Denver. Looking for Watson. Incomplete. Steve Watson. Covered by Gary Green.
Dave Lindstrom on the pressure by the Kansas City Chiefs did a good job, but the Birds still able to get the ball off, and that's a couple of the Watson's dropped. And one of the best things about Watson's ability is his hands. Generally, the most sure-handed receiver that the Broncos have.
Looking at the attendance figure, 74,192 here today at Mile High. Only 911 no-shows.
You know, another interesting thing is that the Denver Gold, the United States Football League team, they've sold apparently 20,000 season tickets. These people are starved. 26,000 season tickets. They love football.
Hancock let it go, and it carries through the end zone. So they'll bring it out to the 20-yard line. 48-yard punt by Prestridge, although that was not what he had in mind. We'll be right back. Today's game is being brought to you by Lincoln Mercury, offering a complete range of contemporary automobiles for 1983 from Lynx to Lincoln. By Budweiser, for all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Canon, so advanced, Canon is the world's leader in 35mm photography.
In case you joined us late, that was Rick Upchurch's 78-yard punt return at the end of the first half. That put the Broncos out in front. They now trail the Chiefs 20-16.
And a 1st and 10 from the 20 for the Kansas City Chiefs off the punt by Luke Prestridge that carried into the end zone. Billy Jackson on the slant out to the 25-yard line. Rulon Jones and Randy Grattershar combined to make the stop.
Appears that Kansas City is going to be very, very conservative here with the lead. 12:03 left. Only throw when absolutely necessary. Try to get as much first down yardage as they can to be in the comfortable spot for the offense. 2nd down and short. 3rd down and short.
Kansas City coming in at 1-5. They've lost their last 4. Losing to the Raiders in the final seconds last week. Terrific catch by Henry Marshall for the first down. The leaping catch in front of cornerback Steve Wilson. This telecast is presented by authority of the National Football League, and it is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Denver Broncos and the National Football League is prohibited.
For Henry Marshall, 15 yards on the catch, and so much for conservatism. And I'm surprised that the Kansas City Chiefs have not tried that spot a little more. Wilson, I believe, making his first start at cornerback.
First down at the 39-yard line. Short setup, this time over the head of Marshall, who got popped from behind by Wilson. Steve Wilson signed as a free agent after the Dallas Cowboys took a look at him. He's a rookie out of Howard, wearing number 45. 2nd down and 10 at the 39. 11 minutes remaining in this 4th quarter. A moment ago, they announced the attendance and the 900-odd no-shows, and the announcement of the no-shows soundly booed by the crowd.
No post-strike feelings here. They're here to watch football.
And Kenny going sideline, no one in sight. Throwing over the tight end, Al Dixon. So it sets up 3rd and 10 at the 39. Last week in Kansas City, there was a mild chant from fans of "We want Elway," referring to the outstanding senior quarterback John Elway, but someone wrote it'd be pretty interesting for Elway to do any better than Kenny or Fuller. Looking up at the sky, the way the Kansas City Chiefs quarterbacks have been sacked throughout this season.
26 from the time the season resumed to today, and I think there have been 3 sacks today, so that's 29.
Here's 3rd down 10 for Kenny. Rifling it.
Flag?
What a collision.
Sir. Flag thrown.
Stan Rome involved. He was the intended receiver, and he collided with J.T. Thomas. And we'll have an opportunity to get a look at that entire sequence.
By the man on the sideline, it was not called interference, but by the man in the middle of the defensive backfield, called interference. believe what the Denver Broncos players are saying is that the ball could not have been caught, and therefore it should not be called pass interference, but the flag does remain. Here's the call.
Pass interference, defense, number 26. First down.
Right at J.T. Thomas. That's the second critical interference call against the Broncos. Dennis Smith was hit for an interference that led to a Kansas City touchdown earlier.
You see man-on-man coverage underneath. Dennis Smith on Rome. There's the contact. Where is the ball? There's the ball. That's interference. There's no doubt in anybody's mind. Denver's only question was the ball catchable? In the opinion of the officials, yes, it was. Therefore, the interference. Now, the guy closest said no flag, but then he can't watch the ball. He only watches the players.
And as you saw, Denver has been severely penalized today. 7th time they've been called. Kansas City only twice. That's the first time that Kenny has looked for the wide receiver, Stan Rome.
Big target, 6'5", 210.
First and 10 at the Denver 39. James Hadnot to the 35. It'll set up a 2nd and 6. Larry Evans, number 56, the inside linebacker, on the left on the stop. And we're set for another update. Let's get back to NFL 82. To the live action. Billy Jackson run out of bounds at the 27-yard line, so it's a first down for Kansas City.
Marv, he got lucky. The ball came loose on the tackle by Dennis Smith, and luckily bounced out of bounds. He was able to maintain control of it, or at least Kansas City was. That was very close to being a turnover.
And it's a first down at the 27. Henry Marshall to the left. Carlos Carson was caught 2 for 77 yards. Blank to the right. This is Hadnot. Hadnot finding his way inside the 15. Steve Wilson on the tackle. Another Kansas City first down.
Misdirection play by Kansas City. Running back went one way. They handed it to Hadnot going the other way. Watch everybody pull. You see the off. Is that the tackle that pulled? Jim Rourke? No, he was playing guard. The off guard pulled. Wilson on the tackle for a good gain. First down Kansas City and driving 12 yards on the carry.
First down at the 15, 9.5 left, fourth quarter. Chiefs lead the Broncos 20-16. Here's Jackson. Strong move to the 10-yard line. Billy Jackson with the surge. Jackson and Hadnot have gone the distance. There was the feeling that we would see some of the rookie, Dale Thompson, rookie out of Texas, El Paso, while with the injury suffered by Joe Delaney. Delaney not available today because of a knee problem. While the Cowboys in front of the Saints now 21-0 in the fourth quarter.
Typically now is the time for Denver to have that big defensive turnover. Not wishing any bad luck for Kansas City, but historically that's what Denver has done in this situation.
However, defense has not been one of their strong suits this season. Hadnot protecting the ball and working his way to the 5, but a penalty marker down.
We've got Denver offsides. It's going to be a first down, it appears, for Kansas City. Marv Levy changing up his offensive lineman. He's now got Rourke and Simmons in the ball game, giving Herkenhoff and Condon a little breather, keep them fresh.
And we await the announcement from the referee, Jim Tunney.
I think they're trying to decide if the carry gives them a first down. If not, they'll take the penalty, which should give them the first down.
Kansas City prepared to go with 3 tight ends as the first down is indicated. And now we'll hear from Jim.
Offside, defense, time, major distance, first down.
Smart quarterback, always giving the players around him their stats when they get them. As opposed to taking the penalty, they give Jackson the 5 yards.
So it's a 1st and goal for Kansas City at the 4. A pivotal series right here. Adnan stopped back behind the line. They have lost the yard. Barney Chavis, the defensive left end, on the tackle.
Jim Ryan, too, made the good penetration by the Denver defense, and made Hadnot alter his course a little bit. You'll watch number 50. He's down there in the 4-point stance, shoots outside the tight end, and then suddenly the timing of the play is destroyed. 50 with his arm out. Tackle made by Chavis. Excellent play, and once again, Kansas City knocking on the door and having a great deal of difficulty getting it into the end zone.
2nd and goal. Back at the 5. Kenny again throwing one. He threw it in a crowd. It was intended for either Carson or Dixon. And it sets a 3rd and goal just inside the 5.
Kansas City has had a bunch of chances in this spot right here, inside the 5-yard line. 4 downs to get it in. And one time it took them to the 4th down to get it in. Touchdown by Dixon. The other time they had to settle for a field goal. These are missed opportunities. They've got to get it in the end zone. There's Lowry stretching up on the sideline behind Spaney. He may be called upon again here quickly.
3rd down play. That's Carson in motion. Much time. And broken up. But a penalty marker down. Tom Jackson knocked it away.
That may be on the offense. That may be offensive pass interference. No, it's on the defense, but I'll tell you what, Jackson had his hand on the Denver Bronco.
45 defense.
Oh, it was called away from the play.
That's Steve Wilson, the cornerback.
Tom Jackson in coverage on the running back from Kansas City. There was some incidental contact there.
Illegal contact. Defense number 35. Half the distance to the goal line. 1st down.
Well, 4 more shots now for the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's 1st and goal from the 2.5. The Chiefs leading 20-16 and maintaining possession down to 7:45 left 4th quarter. Picks up on the handoff as Billy Jackson carried but did not get the acceleration. A slight delay. Radishar and Smith combining to stack him up. And it'll be a 2nd and goal.
That's the 9th play that Kansas City has now had inside the 5-yard line in the 2nd half. And I think the sum total of points is 3.
Time Kenny had success was when he hit Dixon and back of the goal line, as you recall. 2nd and goal at the 3. Now he tries Hadnot, can't make the turn. Steve Wilson involved in the tackle on James Hadnot. Wilson with Aaron Kyle. And it has to be frustrating for the Kansas City Chiefs.
And Marv Levy's got to be wondering, what do we try next? 10 plays inside the 5-yard line in the 2nd half, and 3 points is the net result.
It is now 3rd and goal. The ball inside the 5. 6:45 remaining 4th quarter. Kansas City leading Denver 20-16. And this crowd urging the Bronco defense on. Throw.
Touchdown.
No, incomplete. The ruling that Henry Marshall had it, but apparently made contact with the ground as he grasped the football. Aaron Kyle and the wraps on Marshall.
I think we'll be able to see the entire thing. Lots of contact at the goal line. The catch, no, he didn't have it. Good call by the official. And Nick Lowry on. Excellent call by the official. Did not maintain possession long enough.
22-yard attempt for Lowry, who is 2 for 2 on the day. Fuller awaiting the snap. And make it 3 for 3 for Nick Lowry. 6:23 left, fourth quarter. Kansas City leading Denver 23-16, and a critical call right here on the reception by Henry Marshall.
Or the non-reception, the incompletion, the ball low. Marshall with the ball there. I think the ball's on the ground. I think that's a good call by the official.
Well, Nick Lowry with a 22-yard field goal after the Denver Broncos were stopped off this play.
Once again, this is the best angle to watch it. Ball thrown. Oh, that's a good call. The ball's on the ground. He caught it in his left arm, tried to cradle it, got out, hit the ground when he tried to get it to his right arm. Good call by the official.
Extracurricular action by Aaron Kyle, stripping Marshall of the ball after the play was blown dead. Steve Wilson. Wilson finding holes. Good return out for the 28-yard line, and Denver will take over with 6:12 remaining in this fourth quarter, and the Broncos 7 points behind. Tonight on NBC, the Time Travelers will spend a special Christmas with George Washington. That'll be on Voyagers, and then an anti-nuke demonstration threatens to explode on chips. And George Burns returns as the cigar-smoking supreme being in the heavenly hit Oh God Part 2. That's all tonight right here on NBC. First and 10 at the 27-yard line. Steve DeBerg throwing on first down. Intended for Rick Parros. Gary Spaney covering.
Wow, that missed extra point by Carlos could mean the difference between victory and a tie. 23-16. They got to get it in the end zone and get it in a hurry and try to get it back one more time.
That occurring 5 minutes remaining in the first half after the short burst by Wilhite for the touchdown. Carlos missing the extra point. And Kansas City at that juncture led by the score of 10-6. Upchurch put Denver back in it off the 78-yard punt return for a touchdown. Denver led 13-10. Touchdown reception by Dixon made it 17-13, and then a series of field goals by Carlos and Lowry to bring us to this point. Intended for Parros, being followed by Thomas Howard.
Art Still, once again, the pressure on DeBerg there. Got outside of Lanier, and DeBerg was not able to follow through. Make it a good pass attempt. He's had a busy day, Mr. Still has. That defense has been on the field for an awful long time. And Mr. Still has been an awful big part of that defense.
Art Still in his 5th season out of Kentucky, a dominating player, Pro Bowl man the last 2 years, and the word is he has not reached his prime yet.
Worth repeating, he's only practiced 2 days in 14 weeks because of injuries.
Third down and 10 out of the shotgun. Jim White, the tight end, with the first down across the 40. Charles Jackson with the ankle tackle on Wright, who is starting, replacing the injured Riley Odoms out with a sprained left shoulder. 13-yard pass play and a first down for Denver at the 40.
Our point here, Denver has played with virtually no tight ends whatsoever. Their 3 tight ends coming into this ball game had a grand total of 19 catches, and in this year, 4 of the top 8 receivers in the AFC are tight ends. And Denver is, because of injury and because of other problems, really have not gotten the ball to their tight ends much at all.
This is Wilhite.
Fumble.
And recovered by Kansas City. Wilhite on the fumble. And the Kansas City Chiefs take over with 5:15 remaining in the fourth quarter. It may have been Gary Spaney. We'll have to get another look.
I could not see who had his long arm out, but this is an underneath handoff. We will fake one way and go the next. Let's see if we can pick it up. 71, Lindstrom strips the ball away. Spaney there to make the recovery. First and 10, Kansas City at the Denver 39.
Statistic for the Denver Broncos.
No, you're right. And they have had 24 turnovers on the season. And coming into this game, their 22 turnovers had resulted in 78 points for their opponents. And that's very unlike the Denver Broncos.
The lights are on here at Mile High Stadium in Denver. Kansas City taking over after the fumble recovery by Gary Spaney. And this is Hadnot. And the Chiefs just look to maintain possession now as we approach 5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. And Kansas City leading 23-16.
And Marv, Denver had a 5-man defensive front up there. And Kansas City was still able to get 5 yards on the rush.
James Hadnot in his third year out of Texas Tech, combining in the backfield with Billy Jackson. Second down, they're calling it a 6-yard pickup. 2nd and 4. Hadnot 44 yards on 11 carries. Now this is Jackson finding his way short of a first down. Billy Jackson in his second year out of Alabama. He has been Kansas City's goal line specialist. Larry Evans, Randy Gradishar combining on Jackson. In the fourth quarter, Tampa Bay now leading Buffalo by 1, 24-23. And New England blanking Seattle 16-0 in the fourth. I mentioned the stats on Hadnot. Billy Jackson, 42 yards, 15 carries, so they're getting good balance between the two. It's a 3rd down and 1 at the 31. And Hadnot knifing over for the first down.
Stats by the Kansas City Chiefs today, not impressive. Rushing, pass receiving, but the interception returned by Eric Harris and the turnovers and the penalties by the Denver Broncos basically produced enough time on the field for the Kansas City offense that they're ahead.
All right, a look at what is taking place next week. The stretch run for the Super Bowl as NBC leads off the day with 3 regional games. Richard Todd and the Jets against the Vikings. 2 other key ones, Jets in Minnesota, Denver and LA. First down at the 29-yard line. And Billy Jackson looking to eat up the clock. 3 minutes, and the clock is running. Tom Jackson and Randy Gradishar combined to make the stop.
I'm surprised the Denver Broncos are facing elimination here, and they have not really played that well today. Rick Upchurch, a big part of their offensive success on that punt return. It's rather surprising that knowing that they face elimination from the Super Bowl tournament, as it's now called, with a loss here, that they've had the problems they've had.
It is a 2nd and 7. Broncos have 3 timeouts left. Kansas City with 2. And it's Hadnot as we are down to 2:20 remaining in the fourth quarter. And now a timeout has been called. When we resume, it'll be a 3rd down and 4 at the 23 with Kansas City leading Denver by 7. Well, a portion of the crowd filing out on what has been Craig Morton Day here in Denver. Craig retiring at the end of the season, honored during the ceremonies at halftime, and it has been a very quiet crowd most of the way.
Our friends from Denver here in the booth with us said last year the Broncos were 8-0 in this stadium. This year they're 1-4 at home.
3rd down and 4. Hadnot on the sweep, led by Jackson. And penalty markers down. The first down was picked up by Hadnot. But let's check out what the call is.
I think they got holding on the tight end, number 84, Al Dixon. So it's going to take him back and out of field goal range. Holding, Kansas City. You mentioned Craig Morton. You know, he made a living here in Denver, coming in situations like this and somehow miraculously turning defeat into victory.
84, holding at the line of scrimmage, 10 yards, still 3rd down.
So it is Al Dixon, the Kansas City tight end, setting it back to a 3rd and 15 at the 34. reminder tonight, right here on NBC, the time traveler spending a special Christmas with George Washington on Voyages, and then an anti-nuke demonstration threatens to explode on chips. Plus George Burns returning in Oh God Book 2. That's all tonight right here on NBC. Bill Kenny to throw deep. Oh, a spectacular catch by Carlos Carson. What a play. Carson beating Steve Wilson.
How do you account for that? 33 yards on the catch, and that may best describe or show the problems the Denver Broncos have had defensively this year. Their defensive backs have had problem after problem after problem. They're allowing 370 yards per game totally as a defense coming into this game, and 262 passing. Look at this. He's open. They might have called interference if he hadn't caught it. My goodness.
And now the try for the point after by Nick Lowry, who has had a superb day. The Kansas City Chiefs on the touchdown throw. Bill Kenny's second of the day. Carlos Carson now with 3 catches for 110 yards.
And a touchdown.
And Bill Kenny certainly enjoying his homecoming out of Northern Colorado College.
Here's Carlos Carson's reaction. A super spike. And don't tear up your knee, pal. Kansas City's got to feel good in that they won this game. Unless the bottom falls out.
2 minutes, 6 seconds left.
They might put Upchurch back. No, they don't have Upchurch. They have Wilson, the guy who just got beat. Maybe he'll turn it around and run it in for a touchdown. That would be justice. But without Joe Delaney, Kansas City with virtually unimpressive statistics offensively.
But they got good efforts out of Hadnot. Jackson mixed the plays well. Kenny combining with Carson. Al Dixon gave them a lift.
Harris's interception return. And that big kickoff return after. Who made that kickoff return? I've forgotten. That took it down to about the 45-yard line.
Anthony Hancock.
That was a big stage setter, too, for Kansas City to get back in this ball game.
2:06 remaining. Kansas City now leading it 30-16. 6 plays, 40 yards. Leading to the 33-yard connection. Kenny to Carson. And here's Nick Lowry. Harold Wilhite at the goal line. And he slipped.
And he fumbled.
Wilhite on the fumble, but recovered by Denver.
How do you account for that? I don't believe anybody made contact with him. I think he fell down himself and just coughed the ball up.
And it was Wilhite who fumbled earlier this fourth quarter. The fumble recovered by Gary Spady, leading to the Kansas City touchdown. A timeout with just under 2 remaining. Fourth quarter. Here comes another one of those fantastic.
Alcoa presents Fantastic Finishes. 1978, Art Rooney's Steelers against the Browns. Bradshaw hands off to Blyer, who gives the Swan, who pitches back to Bradshaw, who whales a 40-yard strike to Benny Cunningham that beats the Browns in sudden death 15-9. The Steelers handle the ball no less than 6 times on a flea flicker that brings victory to Pittsburgh on the game's final play.
Bob Trumpy, Denver Broncos 1st and 10 at their 22-yard line following the return by Wilhite. He slipped, he fumbled, recovered though by Denver with 1:56 remaining in this fourth quarter. The Denver Broncos with a defeat facing mathematical elimination from the playoff picture. And the Berg out of the shotgun. It is picked off on the deflection. Gary Barbaro with blocking.
He's going to run it in.
Gary Barbaro for the score.
No flags. When you're hot, you're hot. And when you're not, you're not.
Well, we have certainly had our share of interesting returns on interceptions and on punts. Gary Barbaro, the free safety, with his third intercept of the year. This one for the touchdown.
He was rushed. DeBerg was by Don Parrish, who got him out of the pocket a little bit. The ball intended for Rick Upchurch. See Thomas Howard there in coverage. The ball should not have been thrown. I realized desperation. It was tipped. He was covered. And Barbaro has got the entire team in front of him. Gary Green motioning, come this way, pal. I get you in the end zone.
43-yard run on the interception by Barbaro. Here's Nick Lowry again. And the Kansas City Chiefs have made a rout out of it, although this was a close ball game throughout, and this score is misleading. 37-16 now, Kansas City.
Watch Perry, 61. He flushes him from the pocket, and then running and throwing the ball. Very difficult ball, tipped by Darren Cherry into the hands of 26 Barbaro. And this is a 1-5 football team. Well, they're certainly not playing like it. They will win their first game since the season resumed in grand fashion. 37-16. And as Dizzy Dean made famous, who'd have thunk it? They're all happy.
Kansas City looking very impressive prior to the strike with a win over San Diego. The Chargers not playing the kind of football they have played after the strike, but a 19-12 win, and people were praising the Kansas City defensive effort. But since the resumption of football, Kansas City losing to New Orleans, the LA Rams, Pittsburgh, the LA Raiders in a heartbreaker last week, and they come up with an impressive effort here today against Denver. All right, one of the up men, Keith Euchre.
Fumble.
And is it Kansas City again? Yes.
Well, Kansas City's bench is motioning. So do the striped shirts. Kansas City's ball again. And Marv, have you ever done a football game, a professional football game, in which there were 2 interceptions returned for a touchdown, plus a punt return for a touchdown? 3 returns in 1 ball game, 2 on interceptions.
The answer is no, and this man has to be saying no to the kind of effort he's getting here in the final minutes. Denver Broncos coughing it up again. Keith Euchre on the return, playing that short kick. And here's Kansas City with 1:32 left in this fourth quarter, taking over now, 1st and 10 at the Denver 39-yard line.
With this victory, Kansas City has now won 4 of the last 5 meetings between these two teams. We got a final score for you, too. New England shuts out Seattle 16-0. That is the final.
Jackson breaking tackles. Aaron Kyle finally wrestled him out of bounds. A very depressing final couple of minutes here for the Denver Broncos. Thanks to our coordinating producer today, Ted Nathanson. Today's game produced by Larry Cirillo, directed by Ted Nathanson, technical director Lenny Stucker, and associate director Ray Benassi. It'll be a 2nd and 3 at the 32. Now to 45 seconds left again. It is Jackson. I'd like to thank our spotters, Al King and Ron Telpers, our stat man, Ray Friedman. Clock running down to 35 seconds. It will be a very enjoyable plane ride back to Kansas City for the Chiefs.
Their first win since the season resumed.
And Denver will drop to 2-5. Now they will be mathematically eliminated because of the series of tiebreakers set up. Kansas City, with the same record of 2-5, will not be officially eliminated, but very close to it. It was almost an impossibility for the Chiefs. Jackson again as they just run it out. The Kansas City Chiefs defeating the Denver Broncos by the score of 37-16. A game that saw a series of explosive plays. Eric Harris with his return off the interception. Same for Gary Barbaro. The 78-yard punt return for a touchdown by Rick Upchurch. His 8th career punt return touchdown ties him with Jack Christensen for the NFL record. We'll be right back.